Welcome to the second lecture on tenses. Previously on verb tenses. In the last lecture, we discussed as to what exactly are tenses. We discussed that the origin of the word tense is from the Latin word tempus, that means time. And then we discussed the two types of verb tenses, one based on the time frame and the second based on aspect. Based on time frame, we discussed that there are three broad categories: the past, the present, and the future. Wherein when it comes to based on aspect, we have four tenses that will tell you about the continuation or completeness of the action. Wherein we talked of simple or indefinite tense, continuous or progressive tense, perfect tense, and perfect continuous or perfect progressive tense. And then we discussed the rules of these 12 tenses, both for active as well as for passive voice. Let us now discuss in detail as to what these 12 tenses are all about. Let us first take the first tense as simple or indefinite present tense. Now, when it comes to simple or indefinite present tense, it can be used to express a habitual action. Habitual action would mean that a certain action that happens or keeps happening at a regular interval. So for this, for example, Damon kills a human every day because there's a certain action that the person Damon is doing on the daily basis, is doing regularly. Therefore, it is expressing a habitual action, a habit of a certain person. Such actions, which are habits, are put under the category of simple or indefinite present tense. Then the simple and indefinite present tense can also be used to express the general truth. Like 2 and 2 make 4. So here 2 and 2 make 4. It is a general truth. So for such sentences also we will use the simple indefinite tense. Then the third way wherein you can use the simple or indefinite present tense is in exclamatory sentences beginning with here or there. Whenever we have an exclamatory sentence means the sentence that is not a very well prepared sentence. It is a very kind of, the stimulus got generated, and as a response to that stimulus, there was a reaction. So that reaction, that outburst of feelings, which is very sudden without having prepared what you need to say, if you're having any such sentence and that sentence begins with the word either here or there, to express what is actually taking place in the present, we can use simple present tense or indefinite present tense. Like, here comes Jeremy. So there is somebody called as Jeremy. He has just entered, and you will put it as here comes Jeremy. So that's a exclamatory sentence beginning with the word here. For such sentences, we will be using the simple present or indefinite present tense, here comes. And then we may also use the simple present tense to indicate a future event that is a part of a plan or an arrangement. Though it is a future arrangement, but it is already a part of a plan or arrangement that has been known to people. So, like for instance, the originals starts from next month. So, originals, again, it is a series. So, it starts from the next month. Starts is a present form, is a simple present tense form. Therefore, this indicates that the action that we're talking about, this is though a future event, but it has been planned in the present. The next tense under study is present continuous tense. You may also call it as present progressive tense. Now, when it comes to present continuous or present progressive, this may be used to express an action going on at the time that you're speaking about it. Stephen is marrying Caroline. So Stephen is marrying Caroline means at the time that I'm talking about it right now there's an event going on wherein Stephen is one character, is marrying Caroline, the next character. So it is defining an action that is right now. When I'm talking about it, it is going at that point of time. So such actions may represent a present continuous tense. For present continuous tense, we'll be having the first form of verb followed by the ing. So here, marrying is the present continuous form of verb. Then to express a temporary action which may not be actually happening at the time of speaking. Now, this is very important here. It is a temporary action. It is not something that is happening all the time. It is a temporary. It is there right now, and then after some time maybe it is done. So it's a temporary action. And then whenever you're talking about it, it may not be actually happening at that time, but yes, it is that you are involved into a certain process and the process is on. It could not, it could be that you are not right now when you're talking about it, you're not right now right then doing it, but yes, the process is there, is on, and you are a part of it. For example, Damon is dating Elena. Damon is dating Elena is a process which is on. It is using continuous tense just to show that it is a temporary action. Damon might not date Elena, or Elena might not be interested in Damon. So it's a temporary action. And then the moment I'm talking about it, that is right now, Damon is dating Elena. It doesn't mean that right now it is happening. It would be happening elsewhere, but not right now. But that is, the physical action is not right now taking place. Maybe that Elena is sitting at her room, Damon is there in at some other place, they're not even talking, but yes, because they are dating each other, so that's why it is a temporary action which is still on that point in time. When you're talking about it, the action is not happening then it is not actually happening then that time, but still the process is on. So for such cases, we'll use the present continuous form of verb dating to express an action that is planned or arranged to take place in near future. Now there are certain actions that you've already planned. In present you've planned them, that they will take place for sure in the near future. Now here near future means it has to be really near. This is not a kind of a word which is subjective. For example, suppose somebody asks you to get married. Now you'll say that okay, yes, I'll get married soon. Now what is that soon? For you, that soon would be that maybe that soon is after 4 years. So after 4 years is soon for you. It's okay because that is your definition of soon. Now for somebody, suppose, fingers crossed, there's somebody who's ailing in the family and that person wants to see you get married. So for that person, if the person wishes and says that okay, please get married soon, for that person it soon means real early, right? So soon means the nearness in the future means it is subjective. But here we are not talking of subjective nearness, subjective future. We are talking of actually near future, the events that are aligned and arranged or planned to be happening in near future. Those particular actions can also be put under present continuous category. Klaus is using Jenna for a ritual tomorrow. So tomorrow is something that is really soon, right? So Klaus is using Jenna for a ritual tomorrow. An action that is planned in present to take place in future may be put under present continuous tense. The third tense under present tense is the present perfect tense. These may be used to indicate a complete activity, something that is complete in the recent past. Damon has just hid Elena in a coffin. Just hid. That means the action is right now, it has just finished. While or when the action got completed, the time that has elapsed since then, it is not a huge time. It is only a few moments back maybe. So here, whenever you're talking of certain action that got completed in the recent past, you will put it under present perfect tense. Has just hid. So has is the perfect, hid is the third form, and just shows that it is a very recent kind of a past, right? And then to express past actions whose time is not given and is not definite. Again, that is what continuation is. This is to express past actions. There was something that somebody was doing in past, but you're not mentioning the time of that. You're not giving it a very kind of definite definition. So for example, Tyler has become a hybrid. He has become, the action of becoming a hybrid is complete, but it does not tell you as to when exactly did this happen. So for such cases also, when you talk of a certain past action which is complete, but it is not defining, the sentence is not defining you as to when did it get complete, for such cases also we'll be using present perfect tense. And the present perfect tense is never used with adverbs of past time. In such cases, the simple past should be used. Adverb of past time would mean last week, last day, etc. Right? For example, the sentence Jeremy has visited Mystic Falls last week to say goodbye to Elena. Now, though the action is complete, he has already visited last week, but because we are having an adverb of past time, last week, it is telling you, and it is an adverb of time. When did it happen? It happened last week, and it has already happened. The action is completed, right? So for such cases, when you're talking of an action which is complete, but you're talking in the adverb of time, you're using the adverbs of time in the sentence, in that case you must not use the present perfect tense ever. You have to use the simple past for it, because the action is over. In the past it got over, therefore you'll be using the simple past. For example, this corrected version of the sentence, Jeremy has visited Mystic Falls last week to say goodbye to Elena, will be Jeremy visited Mystic Falls last week to say goodbye to Elena. The last category of verb tense under present tense is the present perfect continuous tense, wherein we'll be using two elements, the perfect, which would suggest that the action started in the past, and continuous, which would suggest that when we're talking about it, the action which started in the past is still on at present when I'm talking about it. So these are used to express an action which began at some time in the past and is still continuing. So Elena has been sleeping since 60 years. So Elena has been sleeping, has been sleeping. There's an action that started some time back and right now also it is on. So for such cases, we'll be using present perfect continuous tense. The first category of aspect derived verb tense is the simple or indefinite past tense. Now, these may be used to indicate an action completed in the past. There was certain action that is now complete and we are then talking about it, but again it is not giving you a definite definition of the action. Jeremy met Elena last week. Met Elena last week. Now the moment we're talking about this, if you can notice, last week is an adverb of time, and we've just discussed that whenever you're using any in any of the sentence the adverb of past time, in that case you will be using a simple past tense and not the perfect present. So Jeremy met Elena last week. For past habits, certain habits that you had in the past is put under the category of simple or indefinite past tense. Klaus visited Mystic Falls every year. This suggests that he visited Mystic Falls every year, but now maybe that habit is not continuing. Maybe now he's not visiting Mystic Falls. That again happens to be a certain place every year. So that's a past habit. And after the phrase "it is time," we will always be using the simple past tense. It is time Bonnie started doing witchcraft. It is time. So whenever you are starting a sentence using the phrase "it is time" with the sentence or in the sentence that uses this kind of a start, you'll always be using a simple past tense. So it is time Bonnie started doing witchcraft. It would never be it is time Bonnie starts doing or starts to do. So it has to be past tense only, simple or indefinite past tense only. The next tense is past continuous tense. To denote an action going on at some time in the past, we may use past continuous tense. For example, when Damon was thrown in the Augustine cell, Enzo was staring at him. So we are talking of an action that was happening in the past, and we're talking about that action that was on at certain time, that when there's a certain character, that is Damon, when he was thrown in the Augustine cell, put behind the bars, there was another person, Enzo, who was already there, and he was staring at him. At whom? At Damon, who was very recently thrown into the cell. So when Damon was thrown in the Augustine cell, Enzo was staring at him. Was staring, an action that was going on at the time in the past when about which we are referring to. And also past continuous tense may be used for persistent habits. Caroline was always chewing gum. So there's a certain character, Caroline, and maybe she was in a habit of chewing gum always. So for addressing such kind of persistent habits, we may use past continuous tense, was always chewing. Chewing is the ing formation, so and was gives it a past tense. So was always chewing gum. The third tense under past tense is the past perfect tense. This describes an action completed before a certain moment in the past. Before a certain moment means perfect. It started in the past and it is very well over in the past as well. When you're talking about it, the action, the process that was on is over. It has been completed. Stefan had ripped Enzo's heart off even before Enzo could realize it. So there is a character Stefan and then there is another character Enzo. Stefan ripped off Enzo's heart and it was done that quickly that Enzo could not even realize that Stefan was going to do that. So here Stefan had ripped Enzo's heart off. Had is the past element, ripped the third form of verb. So it is suggesting that there is a certain action that got completed before a certain time in the past and now we are talking about that action that is already over. Also, past perfect tense may be used if two actions happen in the past. There are two actions that happened in the past. The earlier one is denoted by past perfect and the later one. Later and earlier here, why am I not putting it as latter? Because it is not the position but the time that I'm referring to. The action, there are two actions. Of those two actions with respect to time, earlier and later, the earlier action will be denoted by using past perfect and later action will be denoted by past simple. Bonnie had already visited the other side to bring Jeremy back when Caroline saw her. So there were two actions. One, Bonnie visiting some place. Two, Caroline seeing. These two actions happened in the past. One of the action would have happened first and then the second, right? So with respect to time, Bonnie had visited the other side to bring Jeremy back when Caroline saw her. So when Caroline saw her would mean now Caroline seeing Bonnie was the later action, means with respect to time that happened after the first, that is Bonnie had already visited the last side and then the second action took place, which is Caroline seeing her. Therefore whenever we are talking of two actions in the past, and in such cases we will be using two tenses. The past perfect tense will be used for the action that took place earlier, and for the action that took place later after the earlier event, for that we'll be using a simple past tense. The last category under past tense is the past perfect continuous tense. The action that started in the past, it was a process, and it is still on when I'm talking about it in the past. To express an action that began before a certain time in the past and continues up to that time. So before a certain time would mean that whenever you're talking about it, it has begun before it, and when I'm talking about it, that point in time it is still on. So Elena had been loving Stefan for a decade when Damon fell in love with her. So there was an action that had started in the past, had been loving, had, perfect. Been loving. Loving is the ing formation. So there's an action that began before a certain time, and when I'm talking about it, that is when Damon fell in love, that action was on, had been loving Stefan for a decade when Damon fell in love with her. Again, if you notice, we're using two tenses here. The earlier tense is denoted by the past perfect continuous and the later is denoted by simple past fell. So there are two actions. One, Elena loving somebody. Two, Damon loving Elena. So here, because Damon started to love Elena after a long period of time, therefore we are using simple past, indefinite past there and not the perfect continuous tense. Now, the last category of tense are the future tense. And based on aspects, again, we'll be having four types of future tense. That would mean simple future tense, then continuous, and then perfect, and then perfect continuous. Let us discuss simple or indefinite future tense. These may be used to express an action that has still to take place. So there is a certain action which is not yet taken place, but yes, it is still to take place. For such cases, we'll be using simple future. Catherine will turn into a human after a fight with Elena. Catherine will turn into a human after the fight with Elena. So there are two females that we are talking about. One is Catherine, the other is Elena. They'll be involving into a fight, and after that fight, Catherine, one of the ladies that we're talking about, Catherine, will turn into a human, which suggests that these are both the vampires. But after a fight, something would happen which would transform Catherine into a human. So it is an action that is still to take place, that has to take place in the future. For such cases, we'll be using simple future tense. The next is future continuous tense. This is used to express an action as going on at some time in future, as going on in some time. So when Damon reaches Brooklyn, Stefan will be opening Elena's coffin. When Damon reaches, Stefan will be opening. Would mean that whenever there is a certain person, Damon, whenever he reaches Brooklyn, again the later action uses the simple present. Stefan will be opening, then the action would be on, continued. So when Damon reaches Brooklyn, Stefan will be opening Elena's coffin. It is as good as saying that at the arrival of Damon in Brooklyn, at that point in time when he arrives, Stefan will be opening Elena's coffin. So that the time when Damon arrives at the place, the action of opening Elena's coffin would be on, would be continued. Okay, and then it may also be used to express events that are planned. Klaus will be killing Catherine for sabotaging his plans of breaking his curse. So now there's a certain character, Klaus. He had a curse, a werewolf curse. So in order to break that curse, he wanted Catherine's blood. Now for having that blood, he was planning and plotting, and he wanted to kill Catherine and use her blood. But Catherine got to know about it and she escaped. She just ran away and hid herself along with the cure, along with a certain potion, you can call it. So because she ran away, or maybe along with the moonstone, so she ran away with a certain thing that was, and both the things that we're talking about right now, both Catherine and that moonstone, these two things are important. They were very important for that action to have happened. But because Elena fled from there, taking the moonstone along, Klaus's plan of breaking the curse that he had, that got sabotaged. Because of that, he wanted to kill Catherine. So we are talking of a certain event that is planned. So Klaus will be killing Catherine. He has already planned that he'll kill her. So he will be killing Catherine for sabotaging his plans of breaking his curse. Third category is future perfect tense, wherein these are used to indicate the completion of an action by a certain future time. So the action started in some time back, and now when I'm talking about it in the future, that point in time, it is over. Possessed Stefan will have killed the sleeping Elena by the time Damon reaches Brooklyn. So it says that there's a certain character, Stefan, he has been possessed, seared, and he will have killed the sleeping Elena. Now, Elena is a character that was cursed to go into the deep sleep. Now, and she's been sleeping for 60 years, okay? She's been sleeping for 60 years, and by the time Damon reaches that place where Elena is sleeping, where he has hid Elena's coffin, by the time he reaches there, Stefan would have already killed. So, will have killed. Will have killed will tell you that there is a certain action that is yet to be completed in the future. Whenever the second action takes place, then that point in time when the second action has already taken place, then that point in time, the first action would also have been complete. Now, you may have a question here that why can't we use would have killed? And why are we using will have killed? Now, these are both the modals that we are using. The basic difference between here will be that will is more intense, it is more positive, it is more definite. Whereas when you talk of would, it means that the action is not very sure to happen, because we're very sure that this action will take place. It is a kind of a very determined action. Therefore, for such cases, we'll be sticking to the usage of will and not would. So would, it will give it a kind of non-confirming status, a kind of dicey status, wherein renders perfect clarity to it that yes, this action will take place. So possessed Stefan will have killed the sleeping Elena by the time Damon reaches Brooklyn. So this is how we'll be using future perfect tense. The last tense is future perfect continuous tense. We are talking of a certain action that started in the past, then right now or in the future when I am talking about it, at that point in time also that is still on. So this is perfect continuous in future. To indicate an action represented as being in progress over a period of time that will end in future. As I said, there was an action that started in the past. So it from past it would have come to present, and in future also it is still on, because it is a process that we're talking about, therefore the perfect nature. Because at the time point in time when I'm talking about it in the future, it is then also it will be on, therefore continuous. So to indicate an action represented as being in progress over a period of time that will end in the future. Catherine will have been living in Mystic Falls for years when Klaus gets back from New Orleans. Klaus shifted to New Orleans to find out a doppelganger. Again, the reason behind that was to sabotage that, to break the curse. And here, when because we're saying that the character Klaus has already gone to New Orleans, so by the time he visits back, by the times he comes back, Catherine will have been living in Mystic Falls. Catherine is one of the characters who had not been living in Mystic Falls since a lot of years because of the fear that will kill her if he finds out that she's there. So she was hiding in a way. So Catherine will have been living means the process started in the past, continued for a period of time, and it will be over in future. So will have been living. Till when? Till the time. What time are we talking? What time in future are we talking about? The time when Klaus gets back from New Orleans to Mystic Falls again. With this, we come to the end of the topic tenses. We've discussed all 12 kind of verb tenses, wherein we have combined the tense based on time frame and tense based on aspects. Combining these two categories, we derived from there 12 kinds, and now we've seen as to which particular tense will be used in which condition or situation. I hope that you have understood the technicalities or the intricacies of using time in your sentences, and you're now well aware as to which tense or which type of tense is to be used for what kind of application. Thank you so much for watching the video. Wish you a very happy learning ahead.